Brought to you by NORDIC Podcast.
Today we're joined by a very special guest. This is not only a founder and CEO, he's also a serial entrepreneur in his field within IT, right now blockchain technology, and Unisot. We will try and touch all these topics. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
I'm glad you could make it. It was a little bit short notice, but I'm sure that it's going to be more than worth it in terms of knowledge. And really excited to share your story, your journey, and how you even entered this blockchain technology, this high level of IT knowledge. So I would like to start first of all with how does a person get into blockchain?
Yeah, that's a long history.
Right.
The quick short version is just that I've been working 20 years as an SAP consultant. SAP, the ERP is the biggest ERP system in the world. And I saw the problem that companies have to actually exchange information in an efficient, secure, and cost-efficient way. So I was looking for a solution to this problem for a long time and couldn't really find it. Until one day I read this white paper from a guy called Satoshi Nakamoto about Bitcoin.
Right.
And it just blew my mind that, wow, here is a solution to that problem. So I started working on that. So that's what ended up in the companies that I have now.
So where did you start initially, in the very beginning? Like, because you have gone through and created so many beautiful high-tech companies and you could say projects.
I should call them projects because I haven't been growing that big, and some of them failed and everything.
No, but I like to say in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Your failures are actually more impressive than your success because it shows you have broken barriers and you have been at the edge of thinking new and pushing the envelope. So that is actually a praise towards what you're doing.
So that's what I'm telling the people we have now in our teams, that it's very important to dare to do things and try things and test things. And it's allowed to make errors and mistakes as long as you learn from them and don't do them again and again and again. And I've done tons of mistakes, but I learned a lot. And I hope I remember most of what I've learned as well, because I'm getting older and the memory is getting weaker, but still, it's also about building a team with a lot of good people around you. But I started with this. I was talking about the problem that companies have to communicate and exchange information. But I actually already started way back in the 80s. So I was like 16, 17 years old, and I was a ham radio operator.
Ham radio. What is that exactly?
Ham radio is when you have a radio and you can communicate with the rest of the world. You have big antennas on your house, and then you have CB radios, but that's just between shorter distance. But ham radio is when you do a test and you get a call sign from the government. So I had Sierra Mike 7 November Golf Victor was my call sign at the time. I still remember it. It was a long time ago. Or maybe someone else has that call sign now, I don't know. So maybe I should be careful with that call sign.
Right.
Anyway, so what I did then was I had this ham radio, and I thought I was more interested in the technology than just talking to someone to get. A lot of ham radio operators are interested in just getting a contact and exchanging, where are you? What's the signal? What kind of equipment do you have? And so on. And I was more interested in the technology. So what I did was I built myself a small modem at the time, which was called an RTTY, relay teletype, which allowed me, with my first computer, a Commodore 64, actually my second one, the first one was a VIC-20.
Wow.
Back in 82, 83 something. But then I had my Commodore 64 with 64 kilobyte. So what I did with this computer was I connected this modem And I wrote a program where when I typed on the keyboard, when I pressed an A, for example, has the ASCII character of 65.
Okay.
Then you serialize that to ones and zeros, and that went to this modem, which made for a 0 one tone, and for the 1 another tone. So you got like diddle-lit. So every time I typed a diddle-lit, and that went into my radio, and then I can communicate with other people around the world by typing on my computer. And this was way before internet or anything.
That's genius.
So that was super interesting at the time, because nothing like that existed.
No.
You had you could make telegram. If you go to the national telephone company, you can send a telegram, and it was the same technology. But now I could do it home in my bedroom at my parents' house.
And you built this at the age of
16, 17, 18, something.
That's insane. That's an insane start.
So that was my first start when I actually communicated between two computers.
Right.
And then I continue with my first job, which was at the Tetra Pak, which is this multinational company who makes milk and juice cartons.
Okay.
Tetra Pak. It's a multinational, one of the world's biggest packaging companies.
Right.
So I started there as a trainee for a couple of years, and actually traveled the world around to install their filling machine and to service their filling machine. But I was more interested in that black box inside these machines, which was the PLC, the programmable logic controller, who controlled this whole machine.
Right.
Which you can program from a PC at the time. Or actually, it was not even a PC, it was a big bulky terminal what you had. So I was more interested in that, and it actually ended up that I ended up in the training department for Tetra Pak to train other people how to program this PLC inside the machines. Mm-hmm. And that evolved then to that we connected all the filling machines, like if you have a juice factory here in Norway, a milk factory.
Right.
They have a number of machines. So what we did was then to connect all these filling machines to a central computer. And there was back to my previous, this RTTY technology, where a serialized an ASCII character to be two tones,
exactly.
ones and zeros. And now we did the same here, but now we sent it to a central computer. So now we have a production management system,
right,
with cables to each machine and so on. So I travel
see
around
the
doing
trend.
that.
I see the trend already. You like making
I like
people
making
and things talk with each other.
Yes.
Technology talking.
Technology talking and just testing the technologies. And that was really in the edge of the communication at that time. And then at Tetra Pak, I went into the computer department there, and I saw these suited guys walking around there working with SAP.
Right,
SAP is then the biggest ERP system in the world. And I thought, I was sitting there working with a maintenance system for Tetra Pak. And I was looking at these guys in their nice suits, and they're coming from Australia and England and everywhere, and thought, that looks nice. I want to work with the same thing. So I went to my boss and said, I want to work with SAP, because Tetra Pak started to implement SAP at the time. And he said, no, you have to continue working with this maintenance system that you do. And so I said a bad word, and I said bye-bye, and I went into a new company, which was an SAP consultant company.
So you basically quit on the spot, or?
No, it was like some weeks after that.
Okay. Wow.
So I was lucky to come into a brand new started SAP consultant company in South Sweden called Epona Data. And same thing there. I started as an SAP have their own programming language called ABAP. And what I did there was also communication. So we integrated with web shops. We integrated SAP system with warehouse management system and other systems and so on. So that was
again
continuing the communication. It's always been interested in that thing.
Because this communication again is what we keep seeing can be improved upon.
Exactly.
And
yes.
the more we improve upon it, obviously, the better every unit can be, whether it's computers or telephones or TVs.
Right. So that's where my SAP career started. So I then worked with SAP in different ways for 20 years.
So at what point did you feel, okay, you know what, I need to take this journey on my own road. I need to get things into my own hand.
Right.
What, you could say, signaled you to pull back or venture forward into your own projects?
Right. So I have to circle back a little bit back here, because already in, I think it was 1984 or something like that, I started my first company called High Tech Trading.
Was a trading company?
It was a trading company. So I was planning to import electronics from Taiwan. So I actually got a number of these key finders. Remember, this was back in, I think, 85 or 86, 85, I think.
Okay.
So now you can buy it down on any shops here.
Exactly.
But it didn't exist here.
No.
So I imported this key finder where it was rather bulky thing where you could split it up. There was a sender and a receiver. So you put the sender on your keys or your suitcase, and the receiver you put in your belt here. So when you went away like 10 or 20 meters away, it beeped. So very high tech, but
yeah.
It
especially back then, a key finder like
that was really high tech
rare.
at the time. Yeah, so the company name was good at the time, but it never. I worked at Tetra Pak at the same time,
Right.
so I always had a job and started my companies on my free time.
Oh, so you always had this side gig type
Yeah,
of...
more or less. Yes,
Right.
yes.
So why didn't that take off more than...
I didn't have enough time because I was traveling the world around for Tetra Pak, and I didn't have really a business idea.
Right.
And I was more fun of the technology and
Right.
doing the import and stuff and like that. So it never really went off.
Yeah, a lot of these things you will see like a brilliant innovation that didn't have the necessary, you could say, business support. Because innovation and business, just because you're good in one doesn't mean you'll be good in the other.
Exactly, yeah. And also because there were radius in these ones.
Yeah.
You had problems with laws and things like that.
Right.
So my next company then was a company called Trenob Consulting.
Trenob, so it was a consulting firm?
Consulting firm I was more programming.
Okay.
So this is where I sold my first software, which was for a dog food company. So it was a software where we went out to, or they were using at dog shows. So people could weigh their dog, and then they enter what type of dog it was, and we have the weight, and then the company could then give them a recommendation on what kind of food the dog should have and how much. And of course,
Wow.
from that brand, then of course. But,
Right.
But that was my actually first software that I sold to someone. So
Wow.
that was really
That's actually impressive.
a big thing for me then. Right now, it's like nothing. It was just a small company, a
Right.
small program.
But still, to
but still
start
that
now
was a
pushing
first,
pushing a software at that level.
Yeah, so yeah, that was really funny and educating because again, communicating
Yeah.
with a scale in
Yeah.
this case and a normal computer. That wasn't just to plug it in. There was RS-323 and then talking binary to the ports and stuff like that.
But where did you learn how to manipulate tech in such an advanced way so early? You were 16 when you started. Was this educational? Was this talent? Was this...
No, I'm not educated in programming. I'm educated as an automation engineer.
Right.
But at the time, there was not much programming.
No.
There was PLC systems, but that was more like actually almost like kind of drag and drop thing,
Right.
but not really programming. So I'm self-learned in everything.
That's insane.
Of this. And after that, me and my wife started a new company where mostly from my wife's interest. So it was an interior design shop.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a physical shop in a small in a city in Sweden in Helsingborg.
Right.
And that went very well. And my wife was in the shop, and I was doing the website and some marketing and stuff like that. And it went very good, and up till one day when the government, or not the government, the city where we had a very nice place for this shop. It was on a corner of a big square, so it was a very good. There was parking spaces. People could just stop and come in and buy and go. It's a perfect spot. Until the day the city decided that, okay, this square is now going to be a parking garage. So we are closing down the square for 2 years. All the shops around this square went bankrupt.
Wow.
As well as us.
Right.
Because from one day to the other, the customers just dropped from many to maybe one a day. And you can sustain the rent and all the interior and everything. So we tried for a while. We put a lot of money in there. We tried to survive for like half a year. And then we said, no, it's impossible. We can't put more money into this. So our first bankruptcy.
Right.
And that was very educational as well to do that, to go through lawyers and courts. But actually, we paid off all our debts and closed off everything very fine and in order. And we were very happy for that. But it cost us a lot of money.
Exactly. It's weird to think that they would make such a decision to just suddenly turn the whole thing to parking spots.
And without any warning or without any compensation at all. We asked for compensation. We asked for the house manager to lower our rent. Nothing worked. So
how does one bounce back from that?
So what we did, we closed that company down, and a couple of months later, or half a year later, we moved to Belgium. So that was in Sweden. We lived in Sweden at the moment.
Why Belgium, of all places?
Because my wife is from Belgium.
Okay. That explains one.
So my wife is from Belgium, and she moved to Sweden, and we married and so on. And she lived in Sweden for 18 years with me. So I wanted to do something. I have been working as a SAP consultant for a couple of years. So I was now more close to a senior consultant. So I just sent out my CVs all over the place, and I got a job in the Netherlands.
Oh,
as an SAP consultant.
Perfect.
Yes,
Perfect.
So continuing in that road. And we moved down there, 2 children, 2 daughters. One was 12, one was 6. So it was not really good timing for the 12-year-old to do that, but she managed very, very fine as well. Came down there, worked for a couple of years in that consultant company until it was sold. Actually, maybe I should go back to the first SAP company I was working on, Epona Data. It was sold to a bigger company.
It was
IBM Maersk, IBM. And I don't want to work in big companies anymore. I worked in Tetra Pak for almost 14 years. And it's a complete different way of working in a big company or a small company. It was good for me in the first years of my life and career to learn a lot and to know a lot of people in a company. But at the same time, you're just working inside that bubble.
Okay, so you prefer small companies because it's less of a bubble?
Yes, because I can do more. I have more influence, and I don't have to ask my manager and provide a budget and everything, and I can just do it.
Right.
And same thing here in the Netherlands. That company I was working for was a nice small consultant company with like 50 people or something, and then it was sold to a bigger company. So I said, I don't really like this. So then I stopped, and then I became my own freelance consulting company. So
that's a good move. That's a very good move in that position, honestly.
Yeah. So
especially with
that's
the knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's, you have to be careful before you get a freelance consultant, because you must have your knowledge, you must have the experience.
Yeah.
But when you have the experience and you have a network, you have customers coming back, you have agents calling you and so on, then it was a good time to take the step to be my own consultant.
Perfect.
And not pay like 75 or 50% to my company, and then I get just a normal salary. So
no, it was a very good strategic move as well. I feel like you need to have some certain leverage to be able to go freelance in whatever business you're in.
Yeah.
And
because you're selling your knowledge, you're selling your experience.
Yeah.
So you must have some experience, and I had got that during the time. So, and that was 2005-06. It went perfectly fine until 2008, the crisis, the economic crisis, 2008-2009. And at the same time, we moved from one city in Belgium to another one. We tried to sell one house, and we had already bought another house. So we were sitting there with two houses, a couple of months without any income, and that was really hard.
Yeah.
But that's the times when you really have to be prepared as a, if you're freelance or you have your own company, you have to make sure that you have some reserve so that you can survive without income for a couple of months.
In case,
if you don't have if you don't have rich parents or something or something like that, make sure you have some buffer of money so you can survive. Or you have to find another job, of course. But
of course.
I managed a couple of months there and then continued as an SAP freelance consultant.
It was a difficult time. Obviously, it was an economic crisis and it came out of nowhere. And a lot of people, especially when the economy is booming, do not think of having this reserve currency like or economic cushion. That's the last thing they think about.
Yeah, right. Because you put all your money
and everything is going up.
Or you don't have that much money. You're just living day to day.
Right. It is
sometimes you have to do that as well. But I had a family. I had two daughters, my wife, and two houses and everything. The funny thing here is that we were trying to sell this house through to normal brokers. I think we went through 3 or 4 different house brokers to try to sell this house, and it didn't really work. So one day we just decided that with my wife then that, we sell it ourselves. I was traveling and she was at home, so managing our company as well there. And we said, "Oh, you sell it. You're good at selling." And it took 2 weeks since we sold the house. So we had waited like 2 months with these professional sellers. And then suddenly my wife sells it in 2 weeks. And we got a price much higher than all the brokers had suggested to us as well. So
I think she found her calling.
yeah. So I told her, let's do that. And actually, she repeated that when we moved from Belgium to Norway in 2014. Same thing there. We only had 2 brokers, and then we said, no, let's do like last time.
Perfect.
So she sold it again in just 1 week or something like that.
Wow, no,
so
she has that's a secret talent.
She has absolutely a talent in that side. Yeah.
She should probably pursue it as a hobby. One day.
No. We are using that now. So we started the Unisot company together.
Perfect.
So it's actually a family company.
Okay.
So it's me, my wife, and our oldest daughter who is running the.
She's how old now?
28, 29.
Because in the story when you guys were in Belgium, you said 12.
12, yes.
So
yes.
28, 29. So tell us a little bit more about Unisot and how you felt. You know what, this is the next stage in the business, as well as does it still follow the trend and the line of computers communicating since you were 16?
Exactly. It's exactly on that track actually. So I read this white paper back in 2010-11 something from Satoshi Nakamoto about Bitcoin. And
who is Satoshi Nakamoto for those who have never heard of?
Satoshi Nakamoto is a synonym. It's not a real person. It's not a real name of that person. That is the inventor of Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency. He invented this cryptocurrency, but it's not a new technology. It's just putting old, tested, and verified technology together with economy in a very unique way that makes that you have an economic incentive, or it has its own economic incentive. Everybody that are working around this and using this have an economic incentive to do what they do.
Okay. So what does this thing do?
So Bitcoin is a currency. To start with, it's a currency, just like dollars or Norwegian crowns or whatever. It's a currency where I can and what the header of the white paper says is that it is an electronic peer-to-peer cash. So just like normal cash today, if I give you a $50 bill,
Right.
I have it physically in my hand. I know I have it. You know I have it. Everybody know that I have it because we can see it. And when I give it that to you, now you have it in your hand. You can physically, without asking any bank or credit card company or so,
Right.
you know that you have it. I know that I don't have it.
Right.
And Bitcoin does the same thing, but over internet, electronically. So when I have my Bitcoin wallet, like in my phone or my PC, I know I have it. I can verify myself that I have this. I have 1 Bitcoin now, or 1.5. Or you can divide it up in as small pieces as you like, more or less. So now I can say, okay, I will pay you 0.5 Bitcoin. And when I do that, I see it disappears from my wallet, and now you will see it in your wallet, and you can verify without asking any authority.
Right.
You can verify yourself that you actually now own that, just like the cash bill.
Exactly. And before this technology itself, because many people are probably thinking, wait a minute, don't we already do that with bank notes and all? But it's like, no, not really, because it goes through a bank.
Exactly. So it always goes through a central authority.
So this is a
bank.
decentralized type of...
It's a decentralized, totally decentralized system that everybody can use, but nobody controls.
So what implications does this have? And especially this technology, like what... Because it feels like we're at the very beginning of it, and a lot of people don't really understand the technology.
We are in the beginning. It's 12 years old now,
right?
So it has existed for a long time,
of course.
But the big problem that we have had is that there has been a lot of misinformation and miscommunication, because it is this invention from Satoshi Nakamoto with electronic peer-to-peer cash is a very, very big threat to the whole economy system that we have today, to banks, to governments, and to everything.
What makes it a threat?
Because now suddenly governments and banks are not the only one who are having control. They don't have control over the money flow or the money creation. The money creation in Bitcoin is created by this protocol that Satoshi Nakamoto created and locked down in 2009.
Okay, I see. So basically, the threat is more to the institutions that have the old money system.
Yes, because they are losing control.
Yeah.
And that's why it has taken us 12 years now before it actually is starting to work,
right,
as it was intended back in 2008 when he released the paper, and then in 2009 when he released the software.
Yeah.
Which was open source software, so anybody could look through it and verify it, but also copy it. So that's why we today see many thousands of copies of Bitcoin.
Okay, and these copies, does it affect the Bitcoin at all? Is it completely different?
Bitcoin is the biggest one,
right?
Because it was the first one and the most known one. But the first copy was Litecoin, which was a direct copy of Bitcoin, but with some small changes in the code. And you got Dutch coin, and you got
right.
Now you have 2,000 different coins that is based on the same thoughts and technology.
I see. So then the question becomes: could all 2,000 be correct? Do we need all 2,000? Where do we see this in 50 years? And how do we use this technology?
Yeah. So that's a very interesting question, because we had a case here in Norway a year or two ago, maybe 2 years ago, I think, with a cryptocurrency called
Was it the Norwegian one?
No,
It wasn't Norwegian,
but there was a murder in Norway here.
Okay, an actual murder.
An actual murder from a famous rich guy. His wife was kidnapped, and the kidnapper communicated both via Bitcoin, but also via Monero was the name of that cryptocurrency, and they asked for payment in Monero coin, because Monero is made to be totally private or anonymous, I should say.
Right.
The only problem that they made was the ransom that they asked for were like 25% of all money in Monero. So even if it was a private coin, so to say, or anonymous coin, just by moving that amount around was very easy to follow.
Yes, you will know who is, or what wallet has it.
You can follow it very easy. The data streams that you see, even if you don't know exactly where it is. So that really didn't work out, and then I made some other mess and I made some communication via Bitcoin, and that was actually public, because a lot of people misunderstand that Bitcoin is not anonymous. Bitcoin is private, but fully traceable, which means I can make a payment to you. You don't have to know who I am, and nobody else know it, but our transaction is stored in the blockchain publicly. So
it sounds a lot like you explaining what emails are before the internet. Where, I mean, because I'm trying to think of it like, for someone who has never heard decentralized networking or blockchain, and also the reaction, if you go back on YouTube and you see the reaction news people had when they were explaining the internet, they couldn't, they'll be like, wait, is it a physical thing, or is it, I don't get it, like, how do you send me an email, like, where do I go?
Yeah, what is this @ sign?
Right.
Is
how
that
do you pronounce
internet?
it? So I feel like there might be an overlap here.
Absolutely, yes.
But then the question, or maybe to demystify it a little bit more, how is blockchain, let's say, life-changing, or is it life-changing?
Absolutely. My view on that, Bitcoin, now you mentioned blockchain, and maybe we should connect that, what does it have to do with this, because you have Bitcoin, which is the cryptocurrency or the token. A token is called Bitcoin, and that is running on a data network, and that data network is called the blockchain.
Right.
So when I make a payment, or when I want to send you a Bitcoin, I create a transaction in my phone, my wallet, or my PC, which is then creating a transaction and put it to the blockchain. And I can also give that transaction directly to you, so you can see that I've now paid you. But we also give it to the blockchain, and the blockchain is then managed by what's called data processors, or it's also called miners.
Right.
Which many people have heard about, mining Bitcoin.
Right.
It sounds like you're just creating Bitcoin out of thin air, but actually you are not. Bitcoin was already all the. Maybe I should go back one step and say there are totally 21 million Bitcoins. That's all there is, and
so
all that will ever be. There is a cap on that.
Okay.
That's why it gets a value as well, because it's limited.
And the value is calculated based on what? Because, we know already that the stock is 21 million.
Yeah.
So now what else, what other factor do we need to compare it to the stock to get the value? Is it the users? Is it the network itself?
So like it is up until now is that it has just been a speculative thing. People buy Bitcoin because they think the price will go up. When the price goes up, like now, more people buy, and it's just going up because people think it's going to be even higher value. So it's just speculation today. But that's where I see the difference in this. I don't care about the price at all. I care about what the blockchain technology can do. And afterwards, let's say in a year or 5 or 10, when we actually are using the blockchain technology to actually some real things like storing data, like transfer data, like paying for services, micropayments, paying per minute to see a video, for example. When we do that, then that Bitcoin will get a price from its utility.
I see.
And not just from speculation like it is today.
Right.
Because speculation today, it has gone up now to. I'm not following the price. I saw some tweet about it. I think it's around $40,000 for a BTC coin today.
So in theory, it could be worth way less or way more.
It could be worth. It will never go down to zero, I think, because there will always be some enthusiasts who will buy it for 1 krona or some cents or whatever. But it could go very much down, and it could go very high. But today, the price is totally speculation and manipulation. There are.
How do you manipulate it?
There are like social media groups which are going into pump and dump. So you create more information about it, more people would buy it, and when it goes up, they are selling and they're pumping and dumping it. So there is a lot of organizations just doing that.
Has it ever like the progression of, now I'm talking about like in the entirety of not only Bitcoin but blockchain and all, has it ever become less in value than it was, let's say 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Is the progression linearly upwards, or do we see down, up, down? How does it go?
It's always a spike up and then it goes down, and then a spike up and it goes down. So the last spike before this one was in 2017. Then it went up to $20,000 per BTC.
Right.
I'm saying BTC because I'm making a difference between BTC and Bitcoin.
Yes, one is the currency and one is the actual technology.
I would say that it's depending on what kind of protocol that we're talking about.
I see.
What Satoshi Nakamoto created back in 2008-9 was the Bitcoin protocol. And what happened was that a group of developers called the core developers, or a company called Blockstream.
Right.
The company Blockstream is handling or employing most of the core developers that controls Bitcoin. So it is controlled by a more or less central unit. The problem that this central company, Blockstream, is financed by the financial industry, like AXA Bank or AXA Insurance, one of the world's biggest insurance company, like MasterCard's investment companies and so on. So it's really controlled by the banking industry.
Right.
And what they have done the first 10 years of the life of Bitcoin was to restrict it, to keep the block size, as we say, the how much information we can store at a given time. That's 1 megabyte. They only store 1 megabyte, and then they made some small changes with SegWit. Now they can store maybe 2 or 3 megabyte. But that means that in this whole BTC network, you can only do like 5 to 10 transactions per second globally. And when I'm looking at this from an enterprise perspective, when I want to make solutions for companies, enterprises, if I have one small customer, they will make more than 10 transactions per second.
Exactly.
So it simply doesn't work.
It's too slow.
So that has created that BTC is just a speculation tool. That's all it is. And they went away, they changed the protocol, so they physically went away from the original protocol that Satoshi had created.
Right. So now they're moving more towards a more flexible, faster.
They're trying to build, because it's so slow, they're not trying to build a second layer technology called the Lightning Network. But there you have a lot of other problems. Is that a money transmitter or money handler and so on? So there is a lot of problem on that side. But what we are doing is, in 2018, actually, if we step back to 2015, Satoshi Nakamoto came back because he he disappeared around 2010.
Right.
The creator of Bitcoin, he was involved in the community up until 2010, I think it was. Then he just said, okay, here it is, I'm leaving. And then the whole community was fighting for a long time about this 1 megabyte block size, because a lot of people, and me included, understood that it simply doesn't work. It has to scale if we're going to be able to use it for something else than just speculation. In 2015, he came back. And in 2018, what we did was actually create, or he created then back he went back to the original protocol from 2009. And that is now called the Bitcoin SV, Satoshi's Vision.
Okay.
And what that is doing is they removed totally the cap size, the capping of block size. So now it can be any size.
Right.
To have a cap on how much information you can store is if the TCP/IP protocol, like we have now for internet to make a web page, like you set a limit there. A web page can maximum be 100 kilobytes.
Yeah.
Then we'd stay back on how it was in the early days. When you open a web page, you have to wait for 1 minute before all pictures and everything was there.
Exactly.
And you couldn't have pictures maybe even because it was too
big. Right.
So in a protocol, you cannot have any limitations like that. The limitations must be on the technology side. So in the early internet, they told us that we can never send pictures or films over internet.
Right.
It's too slow because it doesn't work with the routers and everything and so on. So, but we see now, I have in my phone, I can take a 4K video and I can send it to you directly. And it works because the technology has evolved. Not the protocol is still the same. But we went from TCP/IP 4 to 6, but just because there was not enough addresses and so on. But it's still the same protocol.
So what does the evolved version of what we have now look like?
Yeah. So when that started in 2018, I saw that, okay, now I have a possibility to actually use the Bitcoin blockchain technology for enterprise purposes. So this is when we then started the company Unisot. And Unisot stands for Universal Source of Truth. And
I like that.
What we are doing then is to help companies to access the blockchain functionality. Just like you have an internet provider today that give you access to the internet network, we are a blockchain service provider. So, and at the same time, because I have my background in SAP, we have built a plugin for SAP so that SAP has all the business processes that a company need to send an invoice or to pay salaries or all of these things, send an order, send an invoice, as said. But what we now do with our plugin is to allow the company to connect that functionality via the blockchain. So the blockchain is now the new internet where you can start sending and receiving information in a very, very secure way, because the good thing with this blockchain is that it is, as we call, immutable. And that means it's not changeable. So if I give you a Bitcoin, that is registered in the blockchain forever.
Right.
Nobody,
can't be changed.
Nobody can change that.
Can't be hacked.
It can't be hacked. It hasn't been hacked in 12 years. And there is a lot of incentive, a lot of money to hack this, but nobody has been able to do it.
It's a really good price.
That is the invention of Satoshi Nakamoto, that you have these transaction processors, or miners, as they also called. They have an incentive, and that miners are big data centers.
Right.
It has to be big data centers because you have to invest a lot of money in this. And
into mining,
into the data centers who are doing the mining. And what they make money on is not, as many people think today, that they are mining or getting bitcoins or making bitcoins.
No.
All bitcoins has already been issued or created back in 2008 or 2009. what the miners are doing is when I send a transaction to you, this transaction goes to the blockchain, or it actually goes to what's called a mem pool, a memory pool of all new transactions. And then as a miner, you take this mem pool and you put it into a register, a block, as it's called. And then you verify all transactions that, okay, I did have a Bitcoin, now I send it to you, now you have it.
Basically like double checking the ledger.
Just like the banks are doing today,
right?
But now anybody can do it. I can start up a mining company any day. 10 years ago, I could start it up in my computer, but today it has evolved. It has to be a data center.
Yeah.
And okay, I get a number of new Bitcoins, but what I'm actually making money on is the number of transactions, because every single transaction, when I send you a Bitcoin, I have to pay like thousands of a cent.
Right.
1,000 of a cent is the transaction fee.
Wow.
Compared to
Visa fees
or any other cryptocurrency, if you do it in another cryptocurrency called Ethereum, for example.
Yeah, those are high.
That's a couple of tens of dollars today. And the same with BTC. It's also very expensive to make a transaction.
Right.
But in the original Bitcoin Satoshi vision, we can do it for 1,000 of a cent per transaction, which means that we can now do microtransactions. And microtransactions is really the golden thing in this here. That now we can start selling and buying micro information.
So give me a scenario where selling and buying micro information in today's world is better.
So that's where our company and our software comes in.
Okay.
So what we are doing, I told you we are a blockchain service provider, but we also have built a second layer software system, which is a supply chain management system. So we are working with supply chains. And many people then think, so supply chains, it's a truck driving back and forth or something. But actually, supply chain is everything. Everything that you don't grow in your garden or build in your garage comes through a supply chain.
Exactly.
Someone has picked it, someone has grown it, someone has built it, someone has transported it to a factory, someone put it together with something else, transported it, stored it, transported it to a retailer, and then sold it to you. So all these steps, that's a supply chain. And that's the biggest employer and the biggest market in the world today. Everything goes through a supply chain.
That makes sense, actually. Everything has to get to you.
Yeah, so that was actually a kind of problem that we had when we built this system, that, okay, we can use it for everything. So we decided we must have one use case for this, where we can show the world that this is actually working. And because we are in Norway, the second biggest export industry here is seafood.
Okay.
So we started building a module in our system that could help the seafood industry for this. So what we did last summer was to implement this with some pilot customers here in Norway. So one fish producer, a fish breeder, and a distributor, and a restaurant, a sushi restaurant.
Okay, so like a supply chain literally for fish.
A literal supply chain and a transport company in between as well. So what we now are doing, and proved that we could do and that is working, is that we are now collecting information from fish eggs.
From fish eggs.
So you have company who just create fish eggs, experts on that, are selling that to the fish breeder, which is breeding the fish and so on. So now we can store information in the blockchain for these fish eggs. So we have a technology that we call smart digital twins.
Smart digital twins.
So what a smart digital twin is simply just a representation, a digital representation in the blockchain for something real, tangible. So in fish eggs, or now fish eggs is too small to identify, so we have the whole batch of fish eggs. This whole batch of fish egg that the fish egg producer creates, we can now store information about that, about the DNA, what kind of food, what water temperature and stuff like that. We can now store in our digital twin in the blockchain.
That's insane.
And when that fish egg producer are selling the eggs to the fish producer, now we are also moving this digital twin in the blockchain, just like the Bitcoin I'm giving to you.
Right.
I'm now giving you this whole digital twin. Okay, now you own this. You own the fish eggs, but you also own the information, as much as I want to give to you, or as much I want to sell to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you asked me what we can use these microtransactions for. Is now, like let's say the fish producer who produce these fishes for, if it's salmon or halibut, they're breeding that for a couple of years. Like halibut is like up to 5 years they're breeding the fishes.
Wow.
And during that time, they are storing information about what kind of food, water temperatures, and everything like that. And what microtransactions can do now is that now the fish producer can actually start selling like one temperature at one time. I can sell you a temperature for 5 cents.
Okay,
Or I can sell you a location, like the transport company. Today, if you order a package on internet today, you have some kind of track and trace.
Right.
But it doesn't really work good, if we should be honest.
It doesn't. The package is not sent until it's at your door. Then it's delivered.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like 1 and 0. It's sent and, now it's there. Because the reason is that the transport companies have no incentives to actually track the package all the way. Okay, they had to do something
every
because
2 minutes,
we are in this digital age. So, okay, they did something, but it's not really working. They have no incentive. What we now can offer them is an incentive that they can actually start selling the information for your package, exactly where it is, exactly what temperature it has.
Every microsecond.
Every microsecond, every minute, every hour. How important is it for you? Now think about the corona vaccine, which has to be minus 70 degrees,
right,
and it has to be tracked. Now you have an incentive maybe to really know where is it this minute and what is the temperature this minute.
So
now we could offer that so that you can actually buy that information as often as you like.
That's really insane, the way you paint the picture of basically by allowing a tool to be precise, we also allow the precise information to be available.
Yes.
Like they say, every tool is only as precise as its measuring or its ability to measure.
Exactly.
And now if we can break things down into microseconds and even less than that, then the information...
And get the monetized information incentive on this.
Yeah, I think that's the big part of how it's scalable and how people will embrace it.
So you can see now, if we want to make temperature registration or a location registration, 10 transactions per second globally for everybody is not enough. We need millions of transactions per second. And that is what this Bitcoin SV, the original Bitcoin protocol, can offer today. Today, we're already doing like 4,000 or 5,000 transactions per second.
5,000, wow.
5,000. And the reason we don't do more than that is because there is no market for that at the moment.
Not because you can't.
Not because you can't. Because the protocol is unlimited. It's
That's
all
insane.
up to the economic incentive from the miners or transaction processors and so on.
No, it really now opens the mind creatively to... I mean, sky's the limit, literally.
Exactly.
You just have to figure out how to use this tool.
Yeah, so we started proving this in the seafood industry, and it worked out perfectly. So now we are going into other industries. So now we are talking to, I can't name any names yet, but we are talking to multinational companies in food and packaging and all of that.
Sorry, we're getting interferences.
Yes.
Does someone have their flight mode off? On?
I should be on flight mode.
All right, no, we got it. We found it.
It's this one. It's my computer.
All right,
sorry for that.
No problem. We are in the middle of like a office building. We've really insulated all the walls and everything. So anytime there's a slight transmission, it just bounces off the walls. So it's perfectly okay. I'm sure, I don't think the people listening would hear it. And even if they do, now you guys know what that sound was.
Yeah, I think everybody knows that sound as well. The from phones.
But sorry to interrupt. So you said this national industry. What
So
can you
now
say
we
the
are talking
industry?
to.
Do you know?
Yeah, it's.
Is it allowed to say what industry at least? It's
Yeah,
in?
we can say it's a food packaging industry.
Perfect.
And food redistribution industry. So what they want is to be able to track both their packages and the retailer wants to be able to engage customers. So what we are building now is what we were doing for the fishing industry was that we put a QR code on the package and we put an IoT sensor on the fish package to be able to register the temperature all the way, because
That's what the sensor does. The IoT is
the
for
IoT sensor,
temperature.
yes, it's a temperature sensor that's registering the temperatures all the way. And that was very important in the seafood industry, use case that we, the pilot case that we did, because they deliver to sushi restaurants, which is fresh fish.
Right.
So it has to have right low temperature all the way, and we have to know how old it is, because that's the quality for the sushi restaurants. It's fresh. Same thing here now. What we now are doing is that we want to trace the packages all the way from the creation of the package to when it's filled with some food until it comes out to the consumers, where then a consumer can scan a QR code. This already exists today, but mostly with centralized databases. There are some fish producers doing that, and there are some other products, wine and so on, where you scan a QR code and you get information.
Right.
Yeah, but you get it directly from the producer. The interesting thing here is when you do this with the blockchain, you don't get the information directly from the producer. You get it from the blockchain. And you get now information from the producer, from the transporter, from the retailer, and from individually.
Wow.
And because the information that you store in blockchain is not smart in any way. It doesn't validate the information itself. So it's like if you put shit in, you get shit out.
Right.
But the important thing to understand here is that all information that you put into the blockchain, you're signing with your digital signature. I'm saying that this temperature is this much now, or that sensor or my sensor do that.
And by signing with your digital signature, this digital signature is unique for everyone?
Yes, for every new transactions that you do, for every new temperature, for every new location, you have a new digital key.
Okay.
So it's like you're using your bank ID every time to say, yes, I guarantee this value.
Amazing.
It's like writing a contract.
Right.
That in itself incentivizes me not to lie, because like if you give me an order of you want to buy 10,000 iPhones from me, and then you have signed that order as well, and now I say to you, okay, I deliver you now 10,000 iPhones, and I sign it 10,000 iPhones, and you get it. It's only 9,000. Now you can sue me because I told it was 10,000.
Right.
Or if there is a distributor, they sign it. If the loss is there,
and you can
see where the problem is and who did it.
Yeah.
So that incentivizes you. But at the same time, we also now building in AI or machine learning into this. So if we have different temperature sensors, for example, if you have just one sensor, it's very easy to manipulate. You can just blow it with air or hot air or something to change the temperature. But if you have 2 or 3 sensors and you add that together in an AI system or a machine learning system, now you can suddenly start analyzing the value. Is this value the same as the other 2? Is it a value that is likable or possible this time of year with the wind going that way, with the sun there, and all these thousands of parameters
to verify
that we have stored in the blockchain for the last years? We can now verify that is that a reliable value, and we can even put a reliability value on the value.
That's
so
insane.
This temperature is 95% reliable.
That would really, honestly, I'm trying now to think, like the implications are blowing up in my mind. There is so many uses to this.
Yes.
And not only that, but the clarity one will get in every aspect. I'm even thinking streaming services.
Exactly. Yes.
Like, because I'm always getting people on my phone going like, not to mention companies, but like telephone companies for package deals. And the package deals are so grossly, like you either pay way too little for way too little or way too much for.
Exactly. Yes.
And it's no human is either this or that. Some people are in the middle. And I feel something that literally measures and quantitates the milliseconds of usage and then charges you for those milliseconds in streaming services, in telephone networks and companies. This will be insane.
Processing time in a mega computer.
This will really be insane.
You can rent microseconds in a processing time and so on.
And even I think like transportation will be on time every time.
Yeah. So everything today is based on month, more or less. Everything is invoiced monthly. So our whole economic system is monthly or yearly or quarterly. Now we can turn that around totally, because now we can create totally new business models that nobody have thought about before. Maybe thought about, but it wasn't possible to do.
No, you couldn't implement this before.
Right.
How you track the
now
seconds?
we can. Yeah, exactly. Now we can turn that around and do complete new, super interesting things.
No, that's honestly is mind blowing. That's the only way I could describe it when one really understands it.
Right.
It is really mind blowing. And what is holding us back from achieving this? Because it's there, like you said. It's there. So what's holding
it's
us?
there. This started in 2018.
Right.
When we went back to the original protocol.
But I mean, from achieving this in a bigger mass scale, for mass adoption.
It's just time. It's just time and education. Because so many people do not understand actually what a blockchain is. Everybody tried to reinvent it, like Ethereum, like EOS, like
there are many.
All of them. They are trying to reinvent that, and they're all trying to get away from this proof of work, as it's called. The validation system is proof of work, and that is what a transaction processor or miner is doing. They're putting in a lot of work, but the security is not actually in that work. What that work is just a signaling. You are signaling that you have made a big investment in a data center, and by doing that investment, just like if you want to buy a car, you can go to a small guy down on the corner, or you can go to this big car dealer.
Right.
Which one do you go to if you want security? You go to the big one because you know he has invested a lot in house and warehouses and branding and everything.
Exactly.
So same with a miner here. A miner will be a big company that have big data warehouse, invested millions of dollars in hardware. And so they get this incentive not to manipulate anything, because they will lose money doing that. They have an incentive to do it right. And they're enforcing this Bitcoin protocol that is now locked down and will never change anymore. It was ready and finished in 2009. And what we did was go back to that original protocol, and it's proven working since 2018. And what we have seen now is that we have 400 or 500 new ideas and companies that are creating different kind of services. I have a number of companies there. So Unisot is one. We have another called Abendum. I can tell more about that. But there is, we talked about video. There is Streamanity. Streamanity is based on Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. You have Twitch, which is same as Twitch, Twitter, and Twitch. Twitch is then also based on Bitcoin SV, and you have tons of companies there.
So time is what's really the factor.
Time and education. But now the last year, so for Unisot, we started in 2017, December 21, solstice day.
Perfect.
So actually, the company really started up in 2019 then. Sorry, 18. 2018. And then I was working full-time as an SAP consultant, but I worked part-time So 100% as a SAP consultant, and the other 50% on my free time to start getting this company up and running, finding investors, trying to find people, and then in 2019 we got our first seed funding, which enabled me to go full time in my company, and also to start building up the team.
Perfect. Congrats on that, man.
Yeah. So today we are 17 people.
Wow.
About 5 people here in Norway, and the rest is spread in mostly in Europe.
That's a huge jump from freelance consulting.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah. Because freelance consulting was just me and my wife. I managed myself, my time myself. Now suddenly we have 16 other people that you have to manage, and that's a complete new role, and that's something that I'm growing into.
What challenge do you face in managing other people? Like, what is the challenging aspect?
There is a lot of challenges. You have to negotiate prices and salaries, and you have to get people to talk to each other, try to build a culture. Like I said, the first thing I tell them is it's okay to make fault or make mistakes as long as you learn from them.
Yeah.
So I want to tell them that from the beginning, and I'm accepting when they do faults and errors, because that's how they learn. But I'm super lucky because we people have come to me. So I have a number of YouTube videos out, and I got some network, and the people actually came to me. So some of the people we have today, like our product owner and our solution architect, he came to me and wanted to work for me.
Perfect.
And he was our first employee, and so
if you
I had to hire him, and that's the history after that. And some other people, like a company down in Belgium, which already worked some with blockchain. They wanted to work with us because they saw the possibility with Unisot and what we can do in supply chains. That's now we work together in over 1.5 years. So
wow, congrats, man. It's really
But then the problem with people is to get them to communicate and to work together. But I've been lucky. We had some. There's always trouble when a new person comes in the boat. It rocks.
Yes.
And then everybody have to find their place, and then it goes. But we've been lucky and we have a really good team.
So do you feel it's easier to make computers communicate or humans communicate?
Computers easier. Because there you have protocols and you have rules, and if you don't do that, it doesn't work. But people you have to talk to. But I think I found a way to do that, and I believe it works.
Yes,
the way we are doing it, because we haven't lost any people. No one have left in this 1.5 years. So
I'm thinking now from a standpoint of usage, right? I'm seeing that businesses, supply chains. So businesses can obviously those who are interested. I don't know if you take on businesses that reach out to you guys or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is your website? Is it just
Unisot.com?
It's .com. Okay.
UNISOT.
Unisot.com. Okay, check it out for those who are interested. And I feel there is still a lot of work in people digesting the information they just heard.
Yeah, yes, I can imagine, yes.
Because, I mean, I'm in no way an expert on any of this. I do try to learn and teach myself as much as I can whenever I find something interesting. And especially, decentralized blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, whatever it is. And I always feel that when I see, as we started this podcast with banks or higher powered entities in history getting threatened by anything, you want to pay attention to what is threatening them.
Exactly.
Because chances are the fact that they are seeing the potential and you are not is not a fault on it.
Right.
It's a fault on you. So you want you want to see and learn more about whatever that is.
Exactly. Yes, and I want to add here that it was a threat, or the financial industry and the banks saw it as a threat. At the same time, all banks and all companies are doing something with blockchain. They are trying and testing and doing everything on the backside. And but now, even I think next week, Finans Norge and some banks and consulting companies will have a webcast about this, and also thanks to Facebook's Libra. It's not called Libra anymore. It's some other name now.
Okay.
But Facebook coming out with their own cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I heard also the guy that co-owns Apple.
Yeah,
he came out with his own.
That's so funny that so many people are coming out with solutions that was already solved back in 2008.
Right.
Because they
with
don't
the
understand
Bitcoin,
it. They don't understand that it actually is working, and we are proving it now that it is working. It's scaling. And so when I'm building enterprise application, I have to look at specifically 4 or 5 different characteristics. It has to be enterprise secure. Bitcoin is enterprise secure. It has to be proven secure for 12 years. It has to be scalable.
Right.
It has to scale for enterprise applications. And the only blockchain that has that now is Bitcoin SV. It has to be stable, which means we cannot have like BTC or Ethereum or any cryptocurrency today that they are changing the protocol every 6 months.
Right.
Or Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Gold or whatever.
All these,
there are so many
derivatives.
copies. And they have developer communities voting on what changes to put into the protocol, which means that if I'm building an enterprise application, I'm selling to enterprises, I cannot change my core system every 6 months because some developer thought that they wanted a new cool function.
Yeah, too unstable.
Yes. So Bitcoin SV has been locked down. It's not going to change forever. That's the intention. Of course, if there is like IP6 to IP4 to IP6, if there is something that has to be changed, it can be changed. But it's not the intention. There's no discussion about what functions to put in next. No, this is what we have.
Perfect.
That's how it works.
Perfect.
And it has to be cost efficient. And because we have this unlimited block size, it means the more transactions we put into this, the more money the minor transaction handlers get, which incentivize them to put in more hardware to get more transactions, which means that instead of the transaction fees goes up, like in Ethereum or Bitcoin or any other, the more transactions you have, transaction price goes down. So we have economy of scale, we have security, scalability, and all of that. And the more we use it, the cheaper it gets.
That's
so
insane.
it's a magical system. And you mentioned before that my view here, blockchain is, we said internet 2.0 or next internet, but for me, blockchain is the most important invention in let's say our lifetime or in the last 100 years.
Wow. The most. You put it as number one.
Because if we see what the printing press have done for people and information, that was very big. Only that, where suddenly people out in the countryside could read something and get information that only the learned people or the priest had.
Yeah, it took us out of the dark ages, as they say.
Then we got internet, and just see what happens now. Just see, like now in America, all these discussions and information wars and everything back and forth. Next step, and I also want to put in what we got in this or some 100 years ago is accounting systems,
right?
Which made like England and Holland and these trading countries the richest in the world, because now they keep track of their accounting,
exactly,
how much I owe you and so.
Right.
Blockchain is now the next step of all of this. Now we can incentivize information. We can put monetize information. I mean, we can put price on information, because there is this. All information want to be free. No, all information has a price, because it has
information
a value.
is value.
Information has a value, whatever you say.
Exactly.
And now we can put a value. We can buy and sell this value for what it's worth. If the information I give you is worth 1/1000th of a cent, that's it. Or if it's valued at $1,000,
right,
I can pay.
Either way, the easy value.
Way, we have a functionality there. We also get something that we are now. I mentioned our newest company is called Abendum, which is now a company where we do triple entry accounting and triple entry auditing. So bookkeeping, like we have done it now since 17 or 1600 or something, is double entry bookkeeping. You have the debit and credit.
Right.
Everything is debit and credit. So that means that me in my company, I can keep 100 control of my financial. And you can do it in your company, in your bookkeeping. But together, between us, I send you a paper invoice, or I send you an invoice, or something like that, or Edifact, stuff like that. What we now can do with blockchain is to get triple entry accounting.
Triple entry.
Which means I can have debit and credit, but we have one entry together. Which, if I selling you something, I can now put that information in this global ledger that both of us can see, and the tax authority or accountant, everybody can see that.
Right. So it's not only what I have, what you have, like debit and credit, but you have a third layer. Right.
It's what we have.
We share.
Yes. Okay. And that's much harder or impossible to manipulate.
Yes, because it's a shared information.
Yes. And so now we are building this second company, or this fifth company actually.
Jesus.
I have 5 companies at the moment,
Jesus.
So that's too much. Don't do that.
You feel that? I would agree.
Yeah.
That was a bit sarcasm.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, because you have to focus on what you're doing. But I think 3 of these companies are more just going along or on hold.
Okay.
So the 2 main companies is at the moment is Unisot and Abendum.
Right.
So these Abendum companies then, where we're building services for accountants, for companies to do triple entry accounting, and connecting that to the supply chain. So now when a company sends an invoice, they don't just send a PDF invoice or a paper invoice. They actually send information. Not only economical information, but also non-financial information, like how many, how much, when, where.
It's crazy that, like now that you mentioned PDF, it felt like we were back in the Stone Age, you know?
But that's advanced today. Still, I won't name any names, but one company I worked on recently, some people there exited and started a new company specialized in scanning paper invoices.
Oh, I know which one you talk about.
Today you can actually, not today, it was last year or 2 years ago, you can start a company that are living on just scanning paper invoices.
Yeah, I know.
How is that possible? Today, when we have internet, we have blockchain, we have everything.
That's insane. And honestly, even the job for accounting might disappear. Accountants might
it will not disappear, but it will change a lot, because today, like our CFO that we have in these companies, and Turje, me and Turje are running this Abendum company for the triple entry auditing, because his background, he has been working as an auditor, he knows bookkeeping and financials and so on. He also knows information security and all of that stuff. But now I lost why I said that.
I said accounting would disappear. Right.
Accounting would disappear. You're right, because what you have today is like our CFO said then, he was working as an auditor, and there you have highly educated people sitting, turning papers and calling people, checking a paper invoice, and then calling the company to verify, did you send this invoice? Is that really the value and everything?
Gross.
It's monkey work,
it is.
It can be done by anyone. You have a paper, call and ask if that number is correct. That works in Norway, that works in Scandinavia. But if you call to South Africa or South America, they don't even pick up the phone and answer you. So you don't know if that's valid anymore.
Oh, man.
So that will change now. So now we can take these highly educated people to actually look into to the specific problems,
Yes.
to analyze
Yes.
data in a smart way,
Yes.
instead of just doing monkey work.
Yes, we need human brains to do a higher elevated
absolutely.
work, not monkey work.
Right, exactly. So there is a lot of talk about that machine will take over everything, and we will lose our jobs. I
AI,
don't believe that.
right.
I don't believe that.
What's your counter argument to AI taking our jobs?
There will always be a need for human interaction and human services. Just like when you go to a dentist or a hairdresser or anything. Maybe I saw a YouTube, a guy building a robot to cut your hair. That
I don't think
takes another 10, 20 years, I hope.
That's risky. I don't think I'll do that.
But you still have this human factor that is super important and has been forgotten the last century.
Yeah, and I agree. Certain jobs, even if, let's say, AIs take over those jobs, it will still create an elevated amount of new jobs that are
absolutely.
not beneath us. And by beneath
Exactly.
us, I mean we are one of the, if not the most complex machine in the created universe.
Yes.
We are not meant to, it's a waste rather, to stand in an assembly line and do that.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. It's a waste of human potential.
Exactly.
And now, talking about human potential, now with like Elon Musk sending up all these satellites for global internet reach.
Yes.
Just imagine all the brains that will be connected to the internet, all the people, all the knowledge, even if that's complete other knowledge than we have here.
Right.
But it is, we have enormous complex computers up here, brains.
Exactly.
It's not even computers, it's much more than that. And the more of them we can connect together, the smarter we can be, the smarter technology we can be, and the best way to be sustainable and to save human lives is not to close down and go back and forbid, and it's new technology, new ways of solving things. That's why we have much less death today than back in the 1800s, because we are burning oil until now. That actually saved tons of lives, because burning wood kills more people than burning oil.
How?
Of course, because it gets much more pollution in the air. Like if you went to London in a couple of hundred years ago, it was a completely fog of smoke.
Yes,
and that's
crude.
Really crude smoke that everybody was breathing and dying from when they were 40 years old. Today we live much longer, and oil had its time. We still need it for a lot of things, but of course we have to evolve beyond that.
Yeah.
And that's super. We cannot forbid oil.
No.
We have to build things that are better than oil.
Right. And that by doing that, by building the better, the worse will leave and cease to exist.
It's all about incentives.
Yeah.
You shouldn't forbid anything. You should incentivize everything. Like same when you have children.
Yeah.
What is best, to hit them or to actually incentivize them to do something good?
That's a good example.
It's incentivizing and telling why, and telling that if you do that, it's better for that, and you get something, or incentivizing.
So honestly, I see the problem is twofold. The first problem is, and by problem I mean problem with the fear with AI and the fear of us feeling that we will be less better off when AI comes, like with jobs, with whatnot. I feel the problem is twofold. It is, number one, people feel we have reached, meaning people feel like we can't really get better than this in terms of economy and jobs. People feel that the human capacity, what I do every day when I wake up and go to, this is the best, this is it. And anything that disrupts this will be, tremendously bad for the ecosystem, either economic or social.
Yeah.
And I feel the second thing is as well, the fear, because they always compare it with horses, right? And like, well, horses used to pull people and carriages, and when cars came, horses lost their job. Yes, but our capacity is not that of a horse.
Right.
That's what a horse can offer.
Yes.
We can offer so much more.
Yes.
And that brings me now into, our capacity grows almost exponentially with the better tools we have at our disposal.
Absolutely, it does. Yes.
And speaking now of Elon Musk, with the whole thing with Mars, with the whole thing with the internet thing, and now with Neuralink.
Yes.
Now that you brought up and explained eloquently how this blockchain technology works, it actually gets me even more excited for the Neuralink than before. Because before I was like, wait, you put a chip in someone's skull, what would it do? Like,
right, yeah. So we have to be careful, and we have to do it in the right way. And I think sometimes Elon Musk is right there that we have to regulate this in the some way.
Right,
but the problem is, who can regulate it?
Right.
Who do we give that authority to?
To regulate this.
Then back again to blockchain. You can connect blockchain and AI together, so that AI has information. AI must always have information to learn from something.
Of course.
And if you connect AI and blockchain together, you can now let AI learn from verified information that is proven from a certain source with a certain research criteria and so on. That's another area where we can store information in the blockchain is for research results and research data and all of that. There is so much manipulation today with all this COVID and everything, information. And so that's another solution we are working on as well, to store information securely for whatever kind of information that is. But blockchain is this time-stamped ledger where you can store information and prove later on that it was stored at that time and nobody can manipulate it.
Right.
And that can be used for the source to AI, so that it actually, we know what it learns. And
that's amazing. Honestly, the future has the capacity to be very bright in the terms of AI, blockchain technology, and now even quantum computers. Like, I feel we have just scratched the surface. We need to really step back on the forces, let's say, that are holding us back, in development. These things really need to.
And what we see now, I'm super positive for the future.
Yeah.
Even with all the turbulence now we see with in the states and governments and so on, I think this is just the transitional period to something better. Just like we had, just the information age we got with internet, that suddenly anybody can publish information that reach millions of people.
Yeah.
Now we go to the next step where we can actually use this in a smart way, and we don't need to have all of these centralized governments. We need governments, but not as big as we have today, and not as doing everything.
Yeah.
Now we have this decentralized system that can be that decentralized system that nobody owns. And that's the key word here. Nobody owns that central blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, and nobody controls it. It's controlled by everybody that uses it.
Right.
And that is something new that the world has never had before. That's a new invention that we still have to learn how to actually use it in the best way. And now for voting, for health information, for trading, for supply chains and everything, this can be used for all of that. And it's
amazing.
Mind-blowing.
It is.
So much to do and so little time.
It is exactly that. Too much to do, and the implications are vast.
Yeah.
So is there a way for the average guy out there to somehow make his life easier by allowing blockchain in his life at this stage? Is there anything out there that, we're not there yet? Or
absolutely, we are there, but we should use the functionality that blockchain gives us or enable us to do. I see a lot of companies who are just using blockchain as a trendy word. So they try to solve everything. Like everything, if you have a hammer, everything is a nail. But I'm coming from the other side. I saw problems in the industry, and I looked for a solution, and I found it. And We have to do the same thing here. But the interesting thing is, so much of the problems that we have in the world today is about sharing of information and how
Sharing
accurate
of
that information.
Yeah, I was just going to say that sharing
Yes.
of information and
Yes,
accuracy of that information.
exactly.
The truth, verifiable information.
Yes. Just imagine if you read a news article, first of all, you should pay just for that article, not for 2 months.
Exactly.
I hate that.
Exactly. Exactly.
I find a nice article and I really want to read this, and then I come to you have to pay for 2 months. Then I just
Pass.
Google it somewhere else
Exactly.
instead. If I could just say, pay 5 kronor or 15 kronor or
Right.
50 kronor or
Right.
whatever, fine. I'm so interested, so I want to pay it. I can even tip it. If it was a good article, I can tip it even more.
Perfect.
Next then is if I could then see that this information that they say, a doctor have made or someone have made a research or something. Now I could see that, okay, it's verified. I can actually dive in and see, I could actually see the data sets they have used, or that someone has verified the data sets and how it has been verified and how to say, peer controlled and everything, peer reviewed.
Right.
That is so important. About there was an article just last week, I think, about the security police, a PSD here in Norway, was asking and criticizing the universities in Norway, or asking them, how do you secure your data? How do you know that nobody have manipulated your research data? And they say,
Oi.
we don't know. We don't really check that. And that is exactly...
That's scary.
So we have a solution for that as well,
Right,
of course. So we have a product called Secure Document Collaboration, which is actually like uploading a document, sign it with your digital signature, and then store it securely in the blockchain, which you can store whatever information you like. Research data and the result of the research and everything. And we could just have a link to this article. Okay, click on the link and you can see the report. You can verify the person in that report. You can check, is that an actual person? What are they? We go to like a LinkedIn page where you can, in LinkedIn I can type everything today, but just imagine that you have every education is verified by the university and the school and the employer and everything.
You would think this was already seen as a priority, a necessity, and implemented.
Yeah.
Now you're poking holes in so many foundations.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, what are they doing?
The market here is enormous. So it's most our problem now, as you hear, is where to focus. Really, let's focus on the low-hanging fruit first.
Exactly.
And we really have to. Some customers we say, okay, not now. We have to wait. we don't want to do that now because. So
So where can people follow this journey? People listening, where can they?
So we do a lot of social media on social media. So Unisot.com on social media, YouTube and so on.
Perfect.
If you want to learn more about the original Bitcoin, the BSV, there is a YouTube series of 10 or 12 interviews. Right. Where a guy is interviewing Satoshi Nakamoto.
Oh.
Yes. Or, let's say like that.
Okay.
And it's called the theory of Bitcoin. The theory of Bitcoin. Google that on YouTube or search on that on YouTube. You get a whole series of 1.5 hours interviews where they go through the whole white paper. They talk about the history and everything, and Satoshi Nakamoto is us answering these questions.
Okay.
And telling how everything is working.
All right, guys. So you heard it. You can find him on his website as well as check it out on YouTube. The Bitcoin interviewing Satoshi Nakamoto.
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Awesome. It was a pleasure to get educated, to really see a little bit deeper into this blockchain universe. And the future does seem way more precise.
Future is bright.
And bright now.
And we are looking for more developers. We are looking for investors. So we're going to do a new investment round beginning of this year.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to anyone who wants to contact
Awesome.
us regardless of that.
Perfect. We'll leave all these links we're talking about also beneath the video description, because it will be on YouTube as well as the audio.
Yes.
So make sure it's out there.
Yeah, great.
It was a pleasure, Stephan. Hopefully one day you can even come back.
I would love to. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.